Hello, this is Asano Ninja, your host, and today we'll be explaining how to beat the god of fear and hunger, in Fear and Hunger. So this boss is generally considered one of the hardest ones, due to the fact that it has 4 phases, each of which has a bunch of health, and you are down 1 party member. You will always have a maximum of 3 party members for this fight. So, there's a couple ways around this. One, there was a glitch with Nashar, but I will not be explaining that today because that is a glitch. But the other way is, as you can see, we have 3 party members. I have Yahara, Ligard, and Darkseer. So one way to get around it is you can use Blood Golem, or you can use Greater Blood Golem. This will give you an additional party member and will help in this fight. Now, I do suggest on this first turn you either do that or fast attack if you have it, as this first phase here is only setup. The boss cannot do anything to you in this first phase. When it is just the girl and it's disfigured, she can do nothing to you. She will simply use an attack called Compulsory Disfigurement, which does nothing. Does not even do mind damage to you. So this first turn I suggest a setup. Now for the sake of the video, I will not be doing any actual setup. I will just attack the girl. So you may think that status effects will be very effective in this fight, and you would be kind of correct. However, you want to avoid status effects unless you do not think you'll be able to beat the phase in a couple of turns. As you can see, also experiment, nothing's going to happen, and it's going to ship. But whenever she switches to a new phase, all status effects will be removed. Now you'll see that I have Blue Sin, and I have the White Angel Soul, which you should be able to have that by now, assuming you've killed and used a Soul Stone on the White Angel, which will give you an additional turn for new characters. So we'll be using that here. So, now we get to the actual attacks. If you've not done any setup, you should do so by now, as this first phase here, really second, will not be able to do much to you. The most you can do in this phase is use Body Needles, which does low damage and has a chance to bleed you. So overall, if you were not able to do any setup in the first phase, do it now. Again, Blood Golem is a very good setup, as well as fast attack. Other than that, I suggest attacking her. If you can do enough damage, you can actually skip phases in this, though it is incredibly difficult. So, for now we're just going to attack, and that'll be that. Now if we can manage to get a... Yes, so we got the bone effect, you see on the top of the spur. And I took some body needles. There's also something to note is that the boss will attack at the end of its phase, even if you do cause it to go into the next phase. That will always happen. That also includes if you fail to defeat a phase, and you have given the girl the doll and the dagger, she will instead waste up to 2 turns, 1 for each of the items you've given her. However, if you defeat a phase, this does not happen. Here, the girl will learn a new attack, and as you can see, there's the 2 things reminiscing her. This means she's going to skip the next 2 turns. In this phase, she will gain a new attack. She will gain a slap attack, which will deal moderate damage, not a lot to really be worrying, but enough that you probably should take care of her before she does needless damage to you, in preparation for the final phase. But you have a decent amount of leeway. As you see, the bonus status effect is gone, and now reapplied. As you can see, she's instantly going to the next phase of the damage. This is when the boss starts getting difficult. This 4th phase, when she turns into whatever you want to call this, where she sheds part of her skin, she will gain a new attack, 2 new attacks actually. One called Stampede of Arms, which will deal a lot of damage. It's a bunch of consecutive attacks on 1 character. I'd wager probably about 30-40 damage. And then she can also gain the ability to use Toxic Mist, which will poison you. That will deal, I believe, 10-15 damage per turn. This phase is when you do want to make sure you've already set up and take care of this phase as soon as possible, because having the poison status effect on you is very bad, and the needless damage from Stampede Arms is not worthwhile when you get into the next phase, because the next phase you have no time. You have to attack as much as possible. Luckily, because of the doll and the dagger, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just kidding. Sometimes the doll and the dagger does not work properly when you switch phases. As you see that doll, I believe 24 damage? Yeah, 24 damage. So, this is when the fight gets considerably more difficult. So, in this phase, if you've already done your setup, you should be okay. However, there's a couple things to worry about. So, Purifying Black Ember will deal a very good chunk of health to a random party member. And I believe it is a certain hit, so it cannot miss. And on top of that, it has a chance to cause burn. That burn would deal 10 damage on top of the damage you have already taken. So, I'm gonna show off this first turn. I'm going to guard with Kahar. You don't actually have to do this, I'm just showing off something. Just happens to attack me and burn me. That's unlucky. The Newborn God is going to glance. If you guard on the first turn with your main character, the glance will not work against you. Now the glance, what it does, if you fail the coin flip, has a chance to either remove a chunk of your mind or take a very heavy toll on your body. It is preferable to get the chunk off your mind, as that will not have a huge effect on you, unless your main character is a spellcaster. However, the damage dealt to your body is extremely high and has a very good chance to kill you if you are weakened. If I were to not guard there, I would have died. Now, she will not do this again for another turn, so we are free to simply just attack and hope that I'm not hit with the button. In fact, to ensure I don't die here, since I'll use something that is a bit more useful here. As you can see, I was very close to dying. And with that, I have won. And that is how to beat the God of Fear and Hunger. Again, I suggest having Blood Golem and Fast Attack on all of your characters, because the faster you bring down each phase, the higher chance you have succeeding, and to always make sure to do setup on the first two phases, as those are the easiest and least amount of damage you can take, with first phase having absolutely nothing happening to you. However, once you get to the fourth phase, that is the shedding skin into the fifth phase here. That is when you have to be focusing on damage dealing or healing your party, nothing else.